Greetings and welcome back to Room 303 and Chats with Emily as we are working our way through the 1,775 poems contained of Emily Dickinson, contained in the Johnson edition. We turn out to poem 801, I Play at Riches to Appease. Now, this is, of course, we're going to point out right away, again, we're going to remind ourselves how much Emily loves the word play. We've called our series Chats with Emily because Emily does have that playful effect. She, however, is sometimes playing but not playing, and we've seen this already in several of our poems that we've studied. You guys remember 299 when she played around with the idea of another playing poem, and yet it was, maybe not so much play. This is most likely another Sioux poem, as we've called it. You'll remember this from 299. Your riches taught me poverty, myself a millionaire. In little wealths as girls could boast till broad as Buenos Aires. You drifted your dimensions a different Peru, and I esteemed all poverty for life's estate with you. Of mines I little know myself. Remind yourself about that word mine. But just the names of gems, the colors of the commonest and scarce of diadems, so much that did I meet the queen or glory I should know, but this must be a different wealth to miss it, beggar so. I'm sure 'tis India all day to those who look on you. Without a stint, without a blame, might I be, but be the Jew. I'm sure it is a galante, beyond my power to deem, to have a smile for mine each day, how better than a gem. At least it solaces to know that there exists a gold, although I prove it just in time, its distance to behold. 'Tis far, far treasure to surmise and estimate the pearl that slipped my simple fingers through while just a girl at school. Now, our assumptions are that you've been following our stuff at learnstrong.net. Down that left-hand side, Chats with Emily is, of course, our playlist. I'm hopeful that you worked through our set of introductory comments as well as the preceding 800 poems, for example, 299. And if you've been following that with us, you know that Emily is always in this tension about the things she wants but she cannot get. Now, many have read this poem as a Sioux poem. Others have seen this poem as a poem about delayed gratification, especially as it relates to the possibility of publishing. The scholar Priest has suggested that this poem is in fact a Sioux poem where the gold of line 2 will stand for Sioux's love. And then Priest will suggest Emily has described this love as gold in line 26 of poem 299, as a jewel in poem 245. The poem he will paraphrase this way. I play in my imagination at loving Sue in order to appease my clamoring desire for her. This imagining kept me from sinfully stealing physical love from her when I had the desire and the opportunity and could have shown myself to be an independent human being, not caring what people thought. That's lines 1 through 8. But whenever I feel that my fate of abstinence from physical love is becoming unbearable, I consider what that relationship would be like, and I come to the unusual conclusion that I can better value this richness by abstaining from it than by possessing it. Lines 9 through 16. Should I ever in the long and even term of life gain the mine of this love, I shall be the fitter to possess it because of the preceding want. Indeed, the unsatisfied desire is so enlightening that I do not know which is the wholly beautiful, whether the unsatisfied or the satisfied desire, lines 17 through 24. And then Priest will finish by pointing out this poem is another variation on Emily's common theme that anticipation is better than fulfillment. Let's enjoy the poem and Emily's play with play. I play at riches to appease the clamoring for gold. It kept me from a thief, I think, for often overbold with want and opportunity, I could have done a sin and been myself that easy thing, an independent man. But often as my lot displays too hungry to be born, I deem myself what I would be, a novel comforting my poverty, and I derive, we question if the man who own esteem the opulence as we who never can. Should ever these exploring hands chance sovereign on a mine, or in the long uneven term to win become their turn, how fitter they will be. For what? enlightening so well. I know not which desire or grant, the holy, beautiful. I think it's significant that the poem ends with the word beautiful. If you do read this as a Sue poem, that certainly works in terms of all the things that I could want to have. She says, boy, you're about the most beautiful thing that I could imagine having. Notice she begins with this idea, I play at riches. You'll remember the formulation and the use of play in poem 75, and poem 320, and poem 369. You'll remember it as well just recently when we did 728. I think there's other kinds of plays going on here. Follow me on this. I think Emily is also playing around with the 23rd Psalm. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want, is the way that the King James Version will play that game. And I think this idea of not wanting or not needing or not desiring is for Emily the very game that she's playing. She writes a poem about not desiring, but obviously she is desiring. The ironies are fun. Notice she plays at riches. This will take us back to poem 299 that we just played with. Again, that idea of your riches taught me poverty, myself a millionaire. This idea of I play at riches has also been understood as I play at writing. Okay, I play at pretending that the thing I write is of great value. So some have read this poem that way, that in fact Emily is saying, I dream of having the opportunity of being rich in terms of my poetic attempts, but it's so out of reach for me. The anticipation is so powerful and profound. Some of you, again, will read this predominantly as the whole project of a Sue poem. You guys will remember when we did 245, you'll remember that she said it this way for us. And this, again, one of those powerful Sue poems that are so that sticks in our mind. I held a jewel in my hands and went to sleep. The day was warm and winds were prosy. I said, 'twill keep. I woke and chid my honest fingers. The gem was gone. And now an amethyst remembrance is all I own. The idea of appeasing then is the next word in the poem. To appease, you'll remember this from 727. We're going to see this word again one other time in 876. To appease the clamoring for gold. Is this again Sue's love? Maybe we're talking about, again, as Priest suggests, line 26 of 299 of gold. Notice that it kept me from a thief. And then she says, notice thief capitalized. And then she says it, I think. Now, we called our series Chats with Emily because there is this kind of almost like random musing that seems to be a part of Emily's poetry. I think that just the anticipation was enough, she says, for often overbold with want, there's your Psalm 23 reference, and opportunity, I could have done a sin. Notice sin here, capitalized. We go from playing to sinning, right? And been myself that easy thing. Notice, not a person, a thing. An independent man. Now, it's interesting when Emily references herself as a man. She will, of course, come back to this idea of the man, and in a few lines, we question if the man. The idea here is that she imagines what it would be like to be independent, to be able to do anything she wanted to do, namely, of course, to pursue Sue and the love of her pal, right? If you're following the priest interpretation here. But she says, often as my lot displays, this is some biblical language as well, my lot displays, too hungry to be born, I deem myself what I would be, and novel comforting. Has there ever been a greater poet of anticipation than Emily? Obviously, we would put in that category Dante in the Great Divine Commedia. We've given full lectures at LearnStrong.net. My poverty and I derive. We question if the man who own esteem the opulence as we who never can. We're back, of course, to the famous success is counted sweetest by those who ne'er succeed to comprehend a nectar requires source need. Everything that we understand about desire and wanting is somehow linked to the idea of anticipation. We almost really understand the absence of something if and only if we have gone through the process of never having it at all. She says, I'm not sure that a rich person understands they're rich. We've seen this so many times already, right? It is the person who is never going to have opulence that will in fact understand truly opulence. Now, of course, it's in many ways funny because Emily herself was not poor. She was upper middle class, as we've said many times. So she doesn't really understand herself what true poverty is financially. But she'll argue, I definitely understand it in regards to relationally, right? Especially in relationship to Sue, maybe. Should ever these, this is interesting, exploring hands takes us back to Wild Nights, doesn't it? Exploring hands chance sovereign on a mine. Now, the use of mine is interesting, and that's why we began together on 299. Of course, mine is an interesting word. It can mean treasure, as in a gold mine, but it can also mean possession, as in you are mine, you belong to me, right? Chance sovereign on a mine, or in the long, uneven term, to win, become their turn, how fitter they will be, her exploring hands, in other words, for want. In other words, she says, if ever I get my hands on whatever it is she wants, again, priest arguing at Sue, she says, it will have been the anticipation that will have made it so remarkable for me as I thought about holding you in my hands. For want, she says, and then the key word maybe of the entire poem. I told you guys, these poems all seem to kind of often have a fulcrum word. And here, maybe it is the word enlightening so well. Enlightening, the key word here. She loves this idea of perspicacity, of coming to an understanding. It's almost as if she's in her poetry itself, working through the very idea, man, I would love to allow my hands to be able to have the thing I really want, but I play at riches because I gotta be able to back away, because obviously there's things I can't have. And then she'll use this phrase, I know not, which we saw in poem 45 and 502, which, and then notice she capitalizes desire and she capitalizes grant. Of course, that is to say, having the thing that you want. Be wholly beautiful. She says, I'm not altogether sure that if I get the thing I want, that I'll be able to really understand it as wholly beautiful, because I've never actually had it. I wonder what it would be like to finally get it. This takes us in many ways back to 646. You guys will remember that we've already studied this one together, and yet she says it this way, I think to live may be a bliss to those who dare to try. Beyond my limit to conceive, my lip to testify. I think the heart I former wore could widen till to me the other like the little bank appear unto the sea. I think the days could everyone in ordination stand, and majesty be easier than an inferior kind. No numb alarm lest difference come. No goblin or the bloom, nor no start in apprehension's ear. No bankruptcy, no doom, but certainties of sun, midsummer in the mind, a steadfast south upon the soul, her polar time behind. The vision pondered long, so plausible becomes that I esteem the fiction real, the real fictitious seems. I mean, look at that compelling turnaround, right? As we talked about when we annotated this poem. How bountiful the dream, what plenty it would be, had all my life had been mistake, just rectified. Envy. Well, what are we going to say about a poem like this? I think at 2a, I think Priest is right to argue that anticipation is often for Emily better than fulfillment. At 2b, consider the power of language, enlightenment, mine, treasure versus possession. At 3a, to relate to other texts. Obviously, all the other Sue poems come to mind for us, don't they? Judith Farr will qualify 94 of Emily's poems as being those Sue poems. Finally, at 3b, to own a poem like this, what was a time in your life when you, can I put quotation marks around the word enjoyed, when you enjoyed the enlightenment of anticipation? Did you get the thing that you wanted? And then once you got it, was it wholly beautiful? Thank you.